Annyeonghaseyo, all my beautiful people. How are you doing today? This is a very strange time for me. It is after 2 a.m. in the morning. So good morning, good afternoon, good night to everyone who is tuning in to this show. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. It is time for new content, and I'm going to have a lot of it. I know I say that all the time, but I really do. There's so many trials I've been watching and keeping up with that I have to catch up and also do one at a time. And some of the trials have already finished because they actually went by faster than I expected them to, and they were all going on simultaneously. So lots of stuff happening. The first thing we're going to talk about today is the case of Sidney Powell. I'm not sure if you guys know who Sidney Powell is, or maybe you've seen the case on Court TV or other channels. Sorry, it is hot in here, y'all. I am at work. It is the middle of the night, so not my usual background, not my usual anything, but it is in the middle of the night and all the residents are sleeping. So I figured that I would take this time to catch you up on one of the trials that I have been watching that is absolutely mind-blowing. Sidney Powell killed her mother, who she was considered her best friend. Sidney Powell was called her mom's mini-me. She was a great kid, very sheltered kid, smart young lady, had a great grade point average in high school, lots of friends. She was a great kid. She was good. She was a missionary. She did stuff for church. So not the type of kid you would expect, who had a very close relationship with her parents. And you'll learn more about that relationship as this video goes on. But what I watched this last week, was the trial of Sidney Powell and learning about what she did and what happened. So Sidney Powell, a young student, graduates high school and she goes to college. And for a lot of kids, that's a huge adjustment process, right? So, I mean, if you go from a small town to a big school, it's a big deal. It's a big adjustment. But she was in a sorority. She was doing fine. But then things kind of started to unravel for her. This case reminds me a lot of the Chandler Halderson case, but just the female version of it, I guess, because Chandler Halderson killed both of his parents when it was coming to light that he wasn't living the life that he was putting forth to them. So Sidney Powell kind of did the same thing. I mean, basically did the same thing. She was going to college. She was not doing well. She flunked out, basically, and she lied to her parents about it. She continued to go to school, continued to live in the dorm, continued to go to sorority, but then the school was like, hey, hold on a minute. You can't be here. You have been academically released. You can't come here. So Sidney, not knowing what to do because she had spring break coming up and she was kind of hoping she could put this off until spring break of 2020. This is when this incident happened. But she was unable to do so. So she tells her friends and her sorority and her dorm mates that she and her family have decided that it is time for her to take a break from school and she's going to leave early and go home. But she didn't do that. She kind of couch surfed, stayed in her car, went to parties, hung out with friends, pretended like she was going to school, but she really wasn't. And then when she finally did have to go back home early, before spring break, she told her parents she was doing online classes, that her teachers were out on vacation. That was the reason why she wasn't going to class, or she would pretend like she was going to class when she really wasn't going to class. And her dad had a separate account for her for tuition. Well, the tuition didn't come out. So the dad was like, hey, Sidney, what's going on? Where's the tuition? Why isn't the tuition going out? And she said, oh, it's a mistake. I emailed the school. It's going to be taken care of. So she was making up all kinds of excuses to continue this lie that she had built upon for so long. I mean, really for about a year, she was building on this lie trying to figure out a way how she was going to fix it. You know how you get in situations where you're like, okay, I can fix this. But by the time you get to the point of I can fix this, it's a little too late. And now you're begging or just like scraping the bottom of the barrel for any type of help you can get. But Sydney didn't do that. She lied and she tried to build upon the lie, and she just continued to just stack lie upon lie upon lie. Well, all of that came to a head in March of 2020. Like I said, she was home. It wasn't spring break yet. Her family was wondering why she wasn't going to school. Her parents were even telling her, hey, you can talk to us. Tell us what's going on. And she just kept lying. So finally, Sydney's father realizes something is not right. So he talks to his wife, Brenda, and he says, you're better at handling this stuff than I am. Please talk to Sydney and find out what's going on. So Brenda is home. Sydney is home. She's supposed to be in school, but she is not. She is at home. So she and her mother are having a conversation. Sydney says, everything's fine. Stay out of it. Don't worry about it. She's got it taken care of. Well, then a phone call happens, a phone call from the school, from the university to her mother, saying to her mother that things have not been going as Sydney has been describing. Basically, that Sydney has been academically discharged from school, and in the middle of the conversation, they hear a loud thud, bang, okay? This is the point where Sydney Powell made the decision to hit her mom upside the head with a cast iron skillet. If y'all are from the South or from the old days or whatever, you know what a cast iron skillet is. And it is very heavy and it is very hard and it can really knock you for a loop. Well, it did. It did knock her mom for a loop. Her mom screamed and Sydney continued to hit her mother. The people on the phone were like, hello, 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 what's going on? What's going on? Are you there? Are you okay? Should we call an ambulance? And then Sydney decided that was enough. She hung up the phone, and then she decided the frying pan wasn't working, so she stabbed her mother 30 times, y'all. 30 times. That's a lot. So I don't know, like they say things about, overkill, things like that. I don't know if she had some sort of, I know she was called her mom's mini-me and they were best friends and what this and that, but I feel like there must have been some underlying issue there that we're not aware of or no one knows about. And it wasn't brought out into trial. That because Brenda was apparently the salt of the earth, wonderful woman, loved everyone, and just was an amazing person and a great mother. And always did for other people. So it was really strange that Sydney would do this much damage to her mother. Well, the people call back from the school, and who answers the phone? Sydney. And she says, this is Brenda. She impersonates her mother. But the school knows, you're not Brenda. You're Sydney. We know this is Sydney. So then Sydney's like, oh, I'm busted. So I got to think of a way to get out of this. How does she get out of it? She ends up trying to make it look like someone broke into the house and killed her mother. Now, when the cops arrive, they find it strange because the door that is broken is right behind the sofa. I mean, the sofa is butted up to the door, like a sliding glass door. So they had to climb over the sofa to get into the house because no one would answer the door. No one would, let them in. So they found this open door and they go in and they climb over the sofa and they find Sydney's mother in her bedroom now. She's in her bedroom, not in the kitchen, not in the living room. She's in her bedroom. So Sydney got her mom isolated in a room and stabbed her to death. So clearly Brenda went into the bedroom to take this call because she wanted to have the conversation privately. And Sydney wanted to know what was being said and what was going on. And when Sydney realized it was the school, she gets the frying pan and a knife and she kills her mother brutally. So the police get there. Sydney is screaming and just wailing and just going crazy. I mean, crazy. Run, 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 run. My mom said, run, 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 run. Someone broke into the house. Someone broke into the house. And she is like hyperventilating, crying. there's blood all over her. There's cuts on her hands. And the cops are like, why do you have cuts on your hands? What's going on? Like, are these defensive wounds, or is there something going on that we don't know about? Like, what is happening here? So the cops are trying to figure it out. She's not talking. She becomes catatonic. Now, the dad comes home, and they're trying to hide the fact from the dad. The mom is done, okay? So they hide the dad kind of away and get the mom out after a while. And they're like, and Sydney's even screaming, there's so much blood, there's so much blood, there's so much blood. So Sydney is putting on this amazing show, okay? And when you see the camera footage, the show that she puts on for the police and her dad and everyone, the EMTs, everyone there, is just crazy to me to see her do this. The act that she put on, the front, the amount of energy it took for her to continue this lie. So, sorry, gotta have a sip of coffee, y'all. It's after 2 a.m. Oh, it's almost 3 a.m. So, Sydney is now facing, after they realize all that's happened, what's going on, they finally get to the point that Sydney is the perpetrator. She's the one who did this. So she was charged on March 3rd, 2020, which is also when the incident happened. She was charged with murder and felonious charges of assault and tampering with evidence, because she did try to create a crime scene that didn't exist, right? Now it's 2023. Now she had a 1.3 billion defamation lawsuit from, I'm sorry, not her. This is another Sydney Powell. Sorry. Gosh, they can't get information right on the internet. Don't trust internet. Okay, she had a $25,000 bond. Can you believe that? And I think she got that because of her age, because she was still, she was 19 or 20 when this happened. She's 23 now. So they give her a $25,000 bond. Who do you think bailed her out? Her grandmother. Her grandmother bailed her out. Sydney's family has been by her side this entire time. Sydney has been free since 2020 until her trial that happened last week in September of 2023. So she has been free to live her life, free to do the things she wants to do, after brutally murdering her mother. And her entire family was on her side. Her whole family supported her. Her defense, what do you think her defense was? Insanity. I'm finding that this insanity defense is starting to be used more and more often. It is very hard to prove. But they are saying she had a moment of psychosis, which we've heard this a lot, right? We heard this in the Letitia Stout case. We heard this in Chalder Henderson. We heard this in just so many cases. We keep hearing this psychotic break, okay? We did not hear this in Alec Murdaugh because he still claims his innocence, but we're hearing it about Lindsay Clancy. She's saying she had a psychotic break. Everyone who murders apparently is just having a psychotic break. So she is saying she just had a break, just a momentary psychotic break. And now all of a sudden she is insane. So every doctor that's talked to her since then has been like, yep, she's crazy. So it's strange that she never showed any signs. Like Ethan Crumbly, that kid had signs. Nicholas, in the Parkland shooting, he showed signs. There were people who have signs of mental issues prior to the crimes they committed. Sydney Powell, the only mental issue she had was really lying to her parents. It wasn't a momentary lapse of judgment. It wasn't she's been going through mental health issues this entire time. And I mean, as a kid, if you're going through mental health issues, I can tell you, you're not hiding those. Like something's showing. Your parents realize something's going on, but you are able to probably like, of course, lie and say that you're fine. But she never had those times. She never had the times where she had any thoughts or any signs of anything. So it was very difficult to think that she just suddenly became insane and suddenly went psychotic and suddenly killed her mother. No, she did this because she didn't want to get caught. And much like Chandler Halderson, who we know didn't want to get caught, but he did because lies, piled upon lies, just make the situation worse. And some people just paint themselves into a corner. That's what they do. They paint themselves into a corner that they think they can't get out of. And that's when they resort to these drastic measures. Now, is murder the proper measure? No, I don't think so. But sorry, I had to turn the fan off because now I'm cold. Go figure. It's a woman thing. Anyway, so the trial of Sydney was tough to watch because she was crying. She was very emotional in the courtroom. There was a point where she was kind of being babied a lot by the court. Like she didn't have to see or look at the photos, some of the evidence. She looked like she was, I mean, it looked like, I think they're in Idaho or Utah or somewhere. Akron, Ohio. They're in Ohio. So maybe it's already cold up there. I don't know, but she was wearing like turtleneck sweaters and, just crying and bawling through the whole trial practically. And then she shows up to court one day with these long black painted fingernails. So she got her nails done, y'all. So when the trial started, she looked like what my nails look like right now. We're in transition, people. Okay, so calm down. But she had look like this. She was just like bawling and crying. Her face was red. And then one day she comes to court with long black painted fingernails. So she got her nails did. Then the next day, because people were pointing out about her fingernails, the next day those fingernails are still painted black, but they're short. So she realized, or her defense team realized, that was not a good look. Okay, so everyone testified in this case. You saw the body cam footage where she's basically rolling on the ground and this wasn't shown in the trial. This is given to you by the Freedom of Information Act by a lot of YouTubers and a lot of crime coverage people. I do not ask for those things because I know it's called the Freedom of Information Act, but I don't think everyone should have access to that. So if it's already out there on YouTube, it's already out there, but I'm not going to request photos or video footage or anything like that. You'll never see that in my videos because, like I said, even though it's called Freedom of Information Act, I think some people shouldn't be allowed to just use it for their own advantage. But I have seen some body cam footage that had to be blurred out, by the way, because obviously, even though you have the Freedom of Information, and I know one YouTuber who got the videos, which was glad she got because I was able to see kind of because it was very blurred out, but she received, I think, 15 different viewpoints of body cam footage of when they went to Sydney's house. You could see her father. You could see Sydney. You could see the police kind of questioning, why does she have all these cuts on her hands? So all of this is brought into the trial, okay? Then you have her grandmother testifying on her behalf, even though she was on the prosecution witness stand. She was testifying what a great granddaughter she was, what a great mother Brenda was. Everything was just great, great, great. The father, was crying. He was sad. He was upset. He's lost his wife, but he still supported Sydney. Everyone that the prosecution put up basically supported Sydney. Super strange. They did have finally the detectives. They had their own analyst. The defense team had 3 different psychologists speak. And what I found interesting in researching some of this and watching a lot of videos about it is that psychologists are not usually the ones who diagnose you with a psychosis or psychotic break. It's your psychiatrist. It has to be a psychiatrist because a psychiatrist is the one who prescribes you medication. So if you guys have never been to therapy, or, obviously I'm in therapy, I'm always in therapy, but my therapist is not allowed to prescribe me medication. My psychologist or my doctor can prescribe me medication. My psychologist has to determine what my level of mental health is. Is it depression? Is it anxiety? Is it psychosis? Is it bipolar? Is it, what is it? My therapist can speculate, but they can't diagnose. So that was something that was pointed out during the trial, was that the defense had several psychologists and only one psychiatrist. And all of these people spoke with Sydney after the fact. They were all talking about Sydney's mood and demeanor and her behavior and mannerisms and all this after the fact. So could this be PTSD? She just killed her mother, who's supposed to be her best friend, right? So could she be having this psychotic break suddenly because she realized, holy crap, I killed my mom? Yeah, I think so. Could she be, I don't think she was acting, I guess, as some of them say, that they're pretending to be psychotic. I do think she has some issues. I think she has some problems, but I think they all stem from the fact that she killed her mother. And now she's looking back and like, I regret that decision. So if she had just been honest with her family from the get-go, this would not have happened. But how you get to the point of killing your mother, I don't know. I mean, that's a huge jump. Okay, is it insanity? Is it psychosis? What do you guys think? I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose that, but I can just tell you I'm seeing this mental health and this insanity defense being used quite a bit lately, when before it wasn't this common. And I really think it's because of societal changes and what's going on in our world today. But back in the day, insanity was not a plea that defense would use because it's so very hard to prove. But now, because everyone's considered basically mentally ill, they feel like they can use this. Well, the experts even diagnosed her with schizophrenia. They testified that she had full-blown psychosis with moments of lucidness and lethargicness. All of this, again, is after the fact. So keep in mind, this could be because, holy crap, I killed my mom. So at the end of the day, at the end of all of her acting and all of her crying and all of her, apparently very close relationship with her attorney, who treated her like his own daughter, Sydney got a lot of sympathy. But what we are forgetting is Brenda Powell. This is about Brenda. And how everyone, it just baffles me how everyone forgot about Brenda. During this entire trial, it was all about Sydney. Sydney not going to school, Sydney covering up with lies, Sydney going through psychosis, Sydney being schizophrenic, all about Sydney. Nothing about Brenda. Did people compliment Brenda? Did they speak highly of Brenda? Yes. But did anyone put the fact that the death and brutal murder of Brenda was the utmost main thing to look at? Not really. Even the prosecution, when they spoke, really a lot about Sydney, because they had to continue to go back to Sydney because they kept using the insanity defense. So I would just like to say, guys, as I've said this before, anyone can be a killer. Anyone. Under the right circumstances or under whatever circumstances, anyone can go from whatever you want to call normal person to a murderer. It depends on the situation. It honestly depends on what are you willing to do. So again, like I've said, when it comes to your children, when it comes to your family, you're willing to do whatever it takes to protect that. Sydney was willing to do whatever it took to protect the lie. That is not insanity. That is just, that was what her point. That was her line. That was her line in the sand. So I just want to make sure that we remember Brenda. Brenda Powell was a loving mother, loving wife, loved in the community. She put her daughter first. She put everyone first. She did everything for everyone. She helped in the hospital, schools. She was an amazing woman. And by all accounts, by everything that I've heard and seen, there's not a negative thing anyone could ever say about her. And not a negative thing anyone could say about Sydney up until she murdered her mother. So I just, have to say they were kind of like the perfect little family unit. Unfortunately, I think Sydney's situation was that she was very sheltered and very close to her parents. And she did paint herself into a corner and didn't know what to do. But I just want everyone to be sure this is a really, really horrible, horrible crime. And all the crimes that I talk about are horrible. But this is just super baffling and how this could happen and get to this point. But you guys tell me what you think. Do you agree with the doctors, the psychologists? Do you think that she's schizophrenic? Do you think that she had a psychosis breakdown? What do you think? Because I honestly want everyone to remember Brenda. Brenda is the main focus of this case that has taken 3 years, where Sydney has been free for actually over 3 years. And now she has been found guilty, guilty, guilty on all counts. The jury did not buy her insanity defense. They did not appreciate her behavior. They did not see that she was psychotic or schizophrenic. She didn't act that way in court. You could tell that she acted very emotional and was very emotional about the murder of her mother, the death of her mother, the fact that her mother is no longer here. And she's also she's just like a kid would be, concerned about her freedom because she was going to be taken away from the rest of her family. And this is a family that's been supporting her. Where is this family for Brenda? I'm just shocked that Brenda is not getting the same amount of care and love and support that Sydney's getting. So I know that that's your child. I know that's your granddaughter, but she brutally murdered your child, your wife. And I mean, tell me what you would do. How would you be? Would you be this supportive of your daughter and just forget all about the fact that her mother was murdered? I'm not saying hate the child. I'm not saying throw the child away. I'm just saying, you can still love and support, but my God, remember, Brenda Powell lost her life. She was hit multiple times with a cast iron skillet and then stabbed 30 times. And then her daughter continued the lie after the fact. So that is our case for today, everyone. I appreciate you. Next week is Korean Thanksgiving, which we call Choseok. And so I'm very excited to celebrate that with all of you. Also, I want to say thank you to all of our new subscribers. We're over 4,000. I want to say thank you to my OGs, Maureen and Lisa. You two are like my main supporters. And if anyone else would like to support this channel, please like, subscribe, and share. I have membership options so that we can do some more exclusivity and have more conversations with just each other. I would love to end up to a point where I have a moderator, which would be great. Lisa, Maureen, raise your hand if you're ready to do that. But yes, I would love to have this channel grow and be more than it is. My work schedule is insane, as you can tell, because I'm at work at 2 in the morning, now almost 3 in the morning, and we'll work until 5 this afternoon. So yeah, thank you so much. Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Kamsahamnida. And Toba Tubai.